for me, having experienced the growth of this league and to experience being around people within the community and being celebrated to be a part of the community and all of those things has allowed me to be more of myself. And if I can do that, then what does that do for someone else who's like going through their own journey?
What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another Birdies conversation where we talk about the importance of LGBTQ plus visibility. Angel City has partnered with Birdies, the brand behind the most comfortable and stylish flats, to lead with purpose on this talk series to discuss important topics to help women and all people rise up both personally and professionally.
I'm your host, Fish, but I want to get right into it and introduce our amazing guest. Stoney Love is the owner of Stuzo in Los Angeles and has been challenging the fashion industry before gender-free was even a term. And joining them is Merritt Mathias, an 11-year NWSL veteran and Angel City defender who's been an advocate for the LGBTQ plus community since the league started. We talk about how visibility starts with seeing yourself, our hopes for safe spaces for all to participate in sports, and our mutual love for TLC. So sit back, listen in, and enjoy.
Stoney, as the owner of Stuzo in LA, and I see you're trying to expand, that's a hope down the road, which I can't wait to see where that goes all over the world. But can you tell us a little bit about where did this idea come from? Like, why did you decide to create something that is really like a never before seen thing when you created it?
It's very relative, if not just on brand to what we're talking about, because I didn't see it. I mean, really, like I say officially, we launched in 2010, but 2008 was really when Stuzo was born. And Instagram wasn't even around. You know, we probably just had Facebook, and I mean, we still have brands that have sectioned off like stores, and you know, even on their websites, and everything was just divided with like men and women and unisex, and that was it. You know, and it wasn't a talk or even an acknowledgement of non-binary folk, you know, and everyone else, you know, like in between and things like that. And I mean, like I said, I've always felt like a balanced human and like a man, a woman, and both and everything, because I embrace my masculinity and femininity. So finding clothes to represent me like that was just, I didn't even see it. I had to create it and like try to tailor stuff. And back then I didn't have the means to just be like buying something and tailoring it. Clothes, and I didn't like the way they tailored back then anyway, because we just went to the cleaners, and the cleaners was just like chop and stitch one, and yeah, you know, you get this weird hem and all that. It was just weird. So that's really a lot of where my inspiration comes from, because there weren't any other brands that were doing this at all. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna create that. The foundation of Stuzo is designs and sayings and even cut and sew pieces using fabrics that I believe in and that reference my cultures. So really, a lot of it is a mirror of who I am, and a lot of people have taken to it, and I'm happy to maybe have pioneered this brand that caters to people that haven't been seen, and still to this day we're trying to be erased. And I believe that's not just queer folk, that's also brown and black folk, you know, especially within this country.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful space. It's an incredible, the power of, again, it's not just the clothes that you create, but the messages and the meaning and the depth. Like when I wear it, when I put on those sweatpants, like I was like, finally, like this is what clothes are supposed to feel like. And everyone, you know, has different things that they resonate with. But like you said, there's beautiful humans in the world, and everyone has their own fit, their own style, their own everything. And I love that you create for everyone, or create for what resonates with you. And that opens up a whole world for people like us. So very grateful for you. Merritt, you are an OG in this league, 11 years. Super grateful that you have come our way. And I know we are very anxiously waiting for when you get to step on the field for us. What has been, you know, your experience being a part of the league that long and where it's grown to today?
11 years in this league. If you have been in it, then you've seen a lot of things, but a part of that has also been change. And I think in one of those areas, you have seen an increase in support and celebration of the LGBTQ plus community. gosh, when the league started, what was that, 2013? There wasn't anything in anything remotely like in the conversation of a Pride game or Pride Month, or even it being something that should and could be celebrated. And I think, what hasn't changed in this league is that a lot of our supporters are a part of the queer community, and they've always stayed, they've shown up, they've, said the hard thing, they've, done the hard thing and have supported this league even when like it probably didn't feel too kind to support it. And I think for me, it has been just an acceleration of growth in a way that, you went from like not one team really supporting or celebrating Pride to having an expansive like Pride celebration at, I think, across all teams in the league, and how people show up and what is done and the commitment to that, I think it should be, because one, like there are within our own sport, like there's so many women who identify in that community, and then our fans are a part of that community. So I think for me, like there's been an exceptional growth in that way. But yeah, you have like setbacks. There are things that have happened or occurred within this league that, for me, it was part of the reason why like North Carolina started to be somewhere where I'm like, is this somewhere that like aligns with who I am, what I value, and the person that I want to be? And in some ways, those answers to those questions were no. And I think that's a really difficult thing, even within my own growth. Maybe when I, at 24, 25, did it really matter to me in the same way that matters to me now? Truthfully, no. Like, it was something that, like, didn't really sit on my heart probably in the same way that it does today. And so I think for me, having experienced the growth of this league and to experience, like, being around people within the community and being celebrated to be a part of the community, and all of those things has allowed me to be more of myself and to really appreciate who I am and the way I show up. And if I can do that, then what does that do for someone else who's like going through their own journey for that, or, to be celebrated, or to know that there's going to be a Pride game and you're safe and you can be who you are in this environment. And like, what does that mean for people? And I think it goes so beyond just waving a flag in the air. It goes like to be seen and to be known that you're like safe and celebrated. I think for so many people, it just matters on such a deep level. And I'm really proud that this league has grown in a way that it's like grown with the people who support this league and have always supported this league. And yeah, it just looks so incredibly different than it did in 2013. And I think that is a testament to the women probably in this league who have pushed it to look different.
Well, I think you're definitely one of those women. Like, you've been a part of it since the beginning. So I think with both of you, you're in different fields of life, but what you're doing is like stepping into your own power and giving yourself time to go through that journey. And like you said, like I resonate with not really feeling like it was on my heart to be this out advocate and like, speak to it as much. But I think as we start to love ourselves more and really feel that, then there's that strength that wants to be like, oh, I want to reach out and help someone where I was, like your shirt says, like power to the people. Like that's what it's about. And I think as we step in our power, we're giving that power to the people.
The more that it's visible, the more people feel comfortable. The more you feel comfortable, the more outspoken you can be. The more outspoken you can be, the more change that will happen. It is scary to sit in your truth sometimes, and it can be very isolating, but we've seen over and over again, like what's sitting in that truth, what, being okay with not being okay, or not being concerned about people that you just shouldn't be concerned about. If you are willing to do that, like what can happen from that? And there has been in a lot of times, like, athletes are on the forefront of that conversation, and people don't like it. They really don't. And I think, to have been in this space and to even know my own growth and my own struggle and having to sit with my own questions and, like, who am I going to disappoint? And if the answer is myself, then I need to, like, choose something different. And oftentimes it's not myself. Oftentimes it's like, I might disappoint my family. I might disappoint, a friend. And if it's for that reason, then, like, sitting with the discomfort of whatever comes from that disappointment is worth it, because, like, I haven't sacrificed what my value is or what my, values are. So I think that's a really hard place to sit, but it's one that you have to if you want to create something different and better.
Let's go. Man, we're off to a great start. I love the power in this already. And I think it's important to, you're both in places where you are fully, like, feeling your authentic self and honoring that self and wanting to help others. But I know we've all gone through a journey to get to that point. So is there any, like, a specific moment during your journey to where you are now that really, like, maybe visibility was something that impacted you to help you see yourself, or a moment just during, as you came out, that you're like, that was a huge shift, like that was a foundational moment where I, like, stepped into another level of self?
So I'll speak to this first time. I'll speak to this. The first time that I really did see myself in the way I presented, and that's as a human, not really as a queer person, but as a human. Because just to be clear, these in this group did not they're not claiming to be queer or gay or anything, which I would hope, but they're not. But TLC is, like, the group that, like, helped to shape me. And I remember WNBA had just started, and I was, like, obsessed because there were other also masculine looking women, and I was on a basketball team, and I was just like, this is what we need. And then right after this game, a TLC video came on, and it was just like a double header for me, and I was so amped. And I spearheaded that, like, when they came out, to have it in my yearbook. Like, I was just, like, obsessed, because to see women that were not claiming to be queer, however, they were dressed baggy, and they were unapologetic about it, and they were, claiming their sexual, like, desires and stuff within their songs. I mean, it just wasn't heard of, and they were fine. So it was like, they still are. And it's like, it's like one of those things where I was like, man, like, this is me. Like, all this time I've been dressing, baggy, but then I had to kind of balance it out then by force, but now I by choice. But, like, I saw myself, and I was just like, okay, if they could do it, like, they have a song, Hat to the Back, gotta keep my pants down real low. I'm like,
You're like,
it's like, that's the
Theme
kind of girl
song.
I am. What? Yes. I mean, it's almost like I wrote that song, So I was like, I never thought I'd even see anything or hear anything like that. So for me, that was like, that really, now that's the first time I saw myself. And it doesn't have to be, it's the visibility of it, like we're talking about. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, okay, well, let's say I'm Ellen, I'm gay, and I'm dressed like this, and now people can see it. That's good too. But however, seeing someone, that looks like you, same color and everything, and like the style, and they're like, hey, I like to do this, like to do that, and now I'm not queer. This is just me. And that's the thing. Like, however you are is, like, how, you should be proud to be that. And you should also be able to see it somewhere in the media. And it doesn't have to be, like, fit exactly everything. Like, I have a lot of queer stuff. Obviously, I have a lot of Black things. I have a lot of women empowering things. And that doesn't have to be the thing that, you are, but it's not defining anybody. It's like, speaking to those that relate to it. And that's a part of who you are. It's not everything, but that's important to see, so you can show your version of that to the world.
Stoney, I love that you brought up TLC. So funny. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and when I grew up, I was like a little tomboy. I wore like overalls with like this Gap. I'll never forget. I had this Gap like um, long sleeve shirt with like a collar, and I'd wear it with my overalls and like undo one of the overalls with like my Timberland boots, and I was obsessed with TLC. Like I love them. I have no idea. Maybe because I like love the way they dressed. I love their music. I was like, it was just profound for me. I love them. So in kindergarten in music class, you could bring in like a CD and you could play like one song. And I was like, I got my CD. It's TLC, and like I want you to play like No Scrubs. And the teacher was like, you can't play it. It has a cuss word. And I had an absolute meltdown. She was like, okay, we'll play it, but I'll like turn it down when like it comes on. Anyway, I'm like, to your point, I'm like, for whatever reason, love TLC. But for me, growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, I didn't realize that this was even a possibility for me. Like to be gay was me. I just always assumed that I would be straight and marry a man, and I'd always dated men and whatever. It just like wasn't a conversation. But I think even more than that, like the women that identified as gay around me presented in a much different way than I present today. So I was like, you know, I don't want to wear my hair short, and I don't want to wear cargo pants. And I don't want to wear like a roll tide t-shirt. No disrespect, but like you don't look like me, so like I'm not gay. You know what I mean? And I think like as I got older and really my life kind of changed when I moved to Seattle, and my friend group became like lesbian women, and I was around it and around the culture, and kind of just was like way more accepted as who I am truly and the way that I show up. And yeah, it had the exposure to being like, oh, you don't have to look like this, but you can look the way that you are and enter and be a part of this community or whatever that looks like for you. And I think it was never something that I saw growing up. And I'm like, I can look back now and there's certain things that I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it makes sense that I'm gay now. Like, I don't think anyone breaks the tape of A League of Their Own when they're like 5. Like that doesn't always happen. But I'm just like, I agree with you to be visible, to see it, for it to be celebrated, for women to be femme and gay, or more masculine presenting and gay. Like I just think as people in this conversation has grown and people like you step into the space and are like, listen, there's a space for everyone here, no matter what it looks like, and people can wear clothes that are comfortable and fit and are like, oh, this is how clothes fit, this is how it should feel. The more people feel accepted and comfortable within themselves, it creates this like much more broader scope for people to not feel like they have to fit into a box. Because for me, even during my like coming out moments, I never was like, oh, this is wrong, I shouldn't, that it's not really what my background was. But I would be like, wait, no one else has a story like mine. Like all of my friends at the time were like, oh, I knew I was gay when I was like 11 years old. Or I knew that, like I always knew something was off, but like I had a boyfriend, but I knew it wasn't right. And I was like, well, that's just not my experience. Like that's not how, I never had this like innate knowing. And I kind of felt out of place in some ways, like in that journey, and being like, does this happen for anyone else, that you just like meet somebody and you're like, oh wow, like okay, like this is a relationship that I want to be in, and it is a same-sex relationship, and I don't have a similar journey to you, but like I know that I really want to spend time and take on life with you. So yeah, I think to your point, like I don't think I've realized just how important visibility was until I've gotten older and have been like, oh, maybe I would have known a lot sooner if it was just more talked about or more accepted, or there wasn't just a very small group of people that I saw that were comfortable with themselves enough. But it just didn't look familiar to me, you know?
It's the importance of why we're talking about this visibility, and not just for one type of person, but for everyone. Like, just letting everyone be who they are and letting everyone resonate with each other and like continue to uplift each other in that space.
Birdies the Game Changer, the limited edition version of the Swift that rocks Angel City's official colors and emblem. This shoe is ready to inspire, support, and empower you to be a game changer. Go find yours at birdies.com, angelcity.com, and the Birdies app at Kitty Store. And now, back to the convo with Stoney and Merritt.
And I think, like, speaking to the importance of it, you know, it's also can be really vulnerable. Like, you're both public people, and, you know, you're advocating for love and self-love and all of these things, but it also puts you in a spot to receive some hate. And for yourself, what has been a way that you felt like safe spaces were created for you, or support systems? Like, what's your advice to people who want to be more vulnerable, and how can they seek that support so they can step into their spotlight, their light?
I'm going to touch back on the question you asked before, in the moments that like that were like profound in kind of like the shaping of getting to a place where you're kind of accepting of like who you are and like what you stand for. So mine isn't like directly related to my like sexuality, but when we entered into the bubble in 2020 and George Floyd had just been murdered, and it was a social injustice, and COVID hit and all these things, and our league was the first league to enter into a bubble and to be have a televised game. And my best friend is Crystal Dunn, and we and our team in general had a lot of conversations about like what we wanted to do and how we were going to approach like the national anthem, and to kneel, to not to kneel, all these things. And in 2020, like I had started therapy probably like right before 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and was like kind of sorting through all of my own stuff. And the question of whether like to kneel or not was like a very like, that was one of the first kind of like, I have this opportunity to choose who I want to be in this world and what my values are, what I stand for. And it is probably going to go against a lot of what my upbringing is, where I come from, like all of these things. And I remember being like, this is tough, but like I know that like who I want to be and what I align with, like I'm going to kneel. But I'm also going to kneel because my best friend is a Black woman and I love her, and you only get like a few moments where like you can show up for your friends in that way as a person of color, and I am white. I don't have her experience, but like I would never be able to get back that moment if I decided to do something different. And I decided to kneel, and it came with backlash. And it was in that moment, it wasn't like directly tied to my sexuality. It wasn't directly tied to me coming out or any of these things, but it was very much one of those moments that like I look back on, and it profoundly changed my life in terms of like being okay with going against the status quo, or feeling uncomfortable, or sitting in discomfort, and having to have really open and honest conversations with people that didn't agree with me. And some of those people were within my family. And I think with that, like I just gained this sense of like knowing of like, I can do hard things. I am willing to sit in these places, and I'm willing to stand for something that truly matters to me. And I think after doing that, like having kind of an outspoken voice in terms of, you know, gay rights and equality and equal pay and all these things, like that starts to come like a lot easier. And I just am so appreciative for that really hard moment in my life, because it taught me so much about myself and like what I valued. And one of those things was just being outspoken about like who I am and what that looks like, and hopefully making that comfortable for other people. So I think like to transition into your next question of where safe space has been found, truthfully, like I am lucky. I have had like a built-in safe space and like friendships within like my teams. And it's not to say that like everyone is close, but there's a closeness within that environment that always I have always felt safe in and comfortable in, and have some of the best friendships of my life have been from those moments. But I think like those closest friendships has come from being like open and vulnerable and sharing like what I'm going through and being open and honest, so they can equally be open and honest with me, and we can have a friendship that goes deeper than like soccer. Yes, it's the thing that brought us together, but like the thing that keeps us together, the thing that keeps us, you know, entangled in each other's lives are like those moments of like, yeah, the tough conversations, the uncomfortable ones, the scary ones that like we've had to go through and work through. And I know not everyone can like join a team or do that, but I think that there are, I mean, sport for me has been such a safe space in a lot of ways. And I think, you know, you don't have to, like, you have to be willing to put yourself out there, but like, yeah, you're not meant for everybody, right? And I think to be okay with that is something that you have to be okay with. But like if you're open and honest with yourself and you show up in like an authentic way, like you are going to attract the people that you're meant for. I truly believe that. And I think that if you put yourself into kickball or flag football or I don't know, like pottery class, whatever it is, to put yourself in the throes of a community, come to a game. I think that's why fans not that they don't love the game, but the sense of community that people have when they come to like an Angel City game, and how safe it is and how, you know, celebratory it is of this community. I just think that's where people, that's why people stay. It's why they come back. It's why, you know, they show up. And I think if you can find that and you show up in a way that's like, this is who I am and I'm proud of that, that you will attract the people that are meant for you. I truly believe that.
First, like, thank you for sharing all of that. Um, and I know you said like it didn't, the moment you were speaking to was you stepping up and being visible in a different space, but like the, I think our whole queer community can talk about pride is authentic, being authentic, and it's pride in our being ourselves and whatever that is. And we're way more than the letters that label us, and we're going to have to step up and be visible in all ways that are authentic to us. So thank you for sharing that. I'll shift to a different question for you, to, or Stoney, because I think this speaks to your brand. I'm sure you see this a lot in the fashion industry, but you know, with it being Pride Month, and there's a big debate around visibility being tokenized and reduced to mere just like marketing strategies, and kind of stripping away everything that it really stands for. So from your perspective, like how do you see us ensuring that visibility is authentic and is meaningful rather than just like this tick a box to represent for the month?
And while I would say, which is still true, to seek out companies like Stuzo and other, you know, gender-free like companies to carry in their stores year round, which is a big deal. That's one of them. Um, I think like everything else, and especially in this country, the the head of like the corporations have to be more aware rather than like well that then that trickles down to like, you know, the buying department and things like that, because they're going from a formula of, oh, okay, Pride Month's coming up, we have to feature somebody, we have to do this, and it's like, you know, okay, now Hispanic heritage, and it just keeps going like that. However, the same kind of people that you're highlighting every month in a year are shopping in your stores year round, and it's like it just doesn't go anywhere for us. So how how do you do that? But you have to, like, awareness is really key in life. Like if you're unaware of that, then you're not going to have any like compassion or intentionality when it comes to, you know, having a space year round for people, you know. So I think the higher ups need to now have representation that looks like us. Like say for instance, Disney, its Air is trans, I believe. So now you can see the shift already, even before you can see the shift, because when people in power look like you, it's going to reflect what it is, what you resonate with. So that these chair people or whoever the owners they have to like either get with the program, or you need to get people in there that are of the people, so it can look differently like that. So I mean, I'm hoping for it, but one thing I know is that change doesn't always happen overnight. So we've come a long way, and we have a long way to go at the same time. So it really is just like having these conversations and hoping that people are listening, because there's somebody that's either younger than us or the same age or older that's watching, that's like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And they might be queer and be afraid even to, because there's a lot of queer people that are afraid to take that knee and do things that will show like, okay, I'm with y'all, or I'm with us, or I'm for this movement, because they're afraid of like losing their money or their bag or their job and things like that. And it's understandable, however, hopefully this will spark that, I don't know, that I don't even have the word. I don't want to say fight, but it's like that, with that drive to be able to stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that. And I think definitely the first thing is, how can we support the businesses like yours that are all year round doing the work and stand for the work. And I know it's an internal conversation we have a lot at Angel City, as that is how the world's structured, or our society is structured, is these months of celebration, and how to like authentically do that and authentically represent our community. And the intention, it always comes back to the intention. And like you said, it's an all year thing. Maybe there's a different graphic on it that makes it more rainbowy and more pride like, but is there in Hispanic Heritage Month, do we have gay people represented too? Yeah, we do. It's like, how do you integrate the whole human in all of these things?
You gotta kind of like United States. What was it? Colors of Benetton. It, with the idea a little bit, basically, but then do it in your own way, where we're all one race, really. We're the human race, and that's where it starts, and then it just trickles down to individuals and who their cultures are. But like, you can have someone that represents queer, Latin, African, all these things in one. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I represent so many different tiers of, so you can do that. It's possible.
100% agree. Merritt, do you have any thoughts on how, around these months, like around Pride, like how allies can respect the boundaries and really honor what it means and support it, but in a respectful way?
Another great question. I I would say that I think, the world, to Stoney's point, like we are all human beings, but like the world is, or my world is so vibrant and beautiful because it encompasses like so many different walks of life from so many different backgrounds. And that is personally how I want my life to look. Like, I want my life to be a, like, just a community of people that represent so much that is not me. And some of them do and some of them don't, but within allyship you have the responsibility to uplift. If you're going to stand in that space, then it is going to be not only to uplift but to educate yourself and to be able to speak and to be able to sit in, I think, what potentially could be uncomfortable situations and have conversations that, yeah, I might not be of that particular community, but I'm certainly not going to let you speak ill on it, or I'm not going to allow these things to happen within my presence. And I think, allyship's really easy when you're walking a parade and you have your rainbows on, or like whatever that is, and for whatever month that is. I think it's really easy to do that work. It's really hard when it becomes a question of, are you willing to sacrifice your own comfortability for the security of someone else? And I think when a lot of people are asked that question, it's where you falter. I think that's why you see that some of these bigger corporations, that they're like, yeah, we love this. And then it gets questioned by a particular group and it's like, oh, we're going to fall back. And I think that's what's disappointing, or why people get upset, because it's like, it's really easy to be an ally when it's really easy to be an ally. And to be an ally isn't an easy job. It isn't something that is passive. It's a very active thing to be. And so I think you have to be willing, if you're going to claim an ally of Black lives, of gay, of, the gay community, of the trans community, whatever that looks like, then you have to be willing to be active in that space. It's not easy. It's not easy to be an ally. And for all the people that do it, I think there's so much appreciation. But yeah, and it also takes an ally to uplift the community as a whole. It can't just be the people within that community, or it wouldn't get to the platform that it needs to get to for it to be a conversation and for it to be visible, for people that are younger than us or older than us to be able to be like, you know what, it's okay. And I think the more that those conversations happen, and the more that those conversations happen from people that aren't necessarily a part of the community, the more powerful that the community in and of itself becomes.
Like you're saying, when you're giving power to the community, we're really giving power to our whole, like our human community. And it takes our whole human community to lift up all these little micro ones that we also identify with. You both obviously are like leaders in this space, Merritt on the field, in the game of women's soccer, in this game of sports, period. You've been an advocate. And then Stoney for 15 years, repping Stuzo, like you said, before gender free was even a term, like when it was just unisex, that's where we were limited to. But as we know, like there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And we're in a kind of tougher time in this space for sure. But what are your hopes for the future of visibility for our community? And like, how do you envision it evolving and creating a more inclusive society?
I think I would like to see human beings embracing the both energies inside of them. And I'm not, to be clear, I'm not talking about gender, I'm talking about energies that we have inside of us. You could claim a gender or not, if that's, per who you are and who you feel you are, and all that stuff, and dress how you are and all that stuff. But that doesn't take away anything from us being a human being and being balanced. And that looks different for everybody, so it doesn't have to, don't be like, just hell bent on what society, what that's supposed to look like. Because I don't even think society recognizes both energies. That's the thing. So like really leave all that stuff. And I would love it I want to even continue and push it even more to show what a balanced human looks like. And that is like an array of different things. And it's not going to look like what we've been used to seeing. So I want to see more of that in these campaigns, and even to when you make mannequins, and just shifting the narrative and visually and verbally shifting the narrative of what we've seen and heard and all that with within the community and just in everybody.
I love what you're saying about just like questioning how the language we use and why it's created and what it actually does, and does it serve a purpose, or is it disconnecting us further, and like just always asking that stuff and exploring what's possible and what we are as human beings instead of what we've been like created to receive that we are. Merritt, what about you? What do you think, how do you envision society evolving to be just a home for everyone, where everyone's loved?
To evolve into anything means there's going to be a process, right? And I think we are in probably the most uncomfortable phase of that evolution. I think there's been a world in which previous generations have just not acknowledged certain communities, or have, not acknowledged and have believed that they're not real almost. And so like, for me, like currently within sport in general, like there is this massive conversation around like trans men and women competing in sport, and like what does that look like? And I don't think we've gotten it right. I don't know what that looks like. I think that there's there needs to be an ongoing conversation and continuing to push the needle and create a safe space for like all people to compete in sport, especially like when it comes to kids. I know what sport gave to me. I know what soccer gave to me. I know the confidence it gave me. I know, the worth that it gave to me. And I don't know where I would be without having something like that in my life. And I don't think that should be taken away from any kid, no matter how they identify. So I think for me, it is continuing for the people that are willing to stand in the uncomfortable places and continue to have those conversations and to continue to have hope that what we're doing is the right thing, even though it's not always the easiest thing to do. Because like my individual experiences, when I like encounter people, people are wonderful when you encounter and when you attract the right people and you have them in your life. And we are human beings, we are built for connection. And I think the more someone cuts off those connections because of the way someone looks or identify or loves, like, you make your world so much smaller. And I don't want your world. I don't want to be a part of your world. I want a world where it's like people feel open to be who they are and to love who they want. And I hope to be a part of a change that allows that to be for everyone.
Well, you definitely both are, and I can acknowledge that and want to honor seriously like your lives, your journeys to this moment, and standing like from where you are at every point of that journey too, because that's not always an easy thing to do. But yeah, just again, thank you both for, I know this went longer, all the things, but I think it's like the best part of humanity is connecting and just speaking truth and speaking personal experience and vibing in that space. So thank you both. I'm really grateful that our audience gets to hear this too and resonate and then learn and follow you all. Well, I know they follow you, Merritt, but Stoney, we're going to introduce you to the fam.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Fish. This is awesome.